Sensationally silver, because you are.
Welcome, everyone, to Sensationally Silver, A State of Mind, conversations with extraordinary, ordinary persons of age, people who are going to bring you information, inspiration, and validation. Join us. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Sensationally Silver, A State of Mind, conversations with extraordinary, ordinary persons of age. And my guest today is someone I've had as a guest before because she has this wonderful 3-part system that you can learn all about. We've done 2 different podcasts on the first 2 parts, and today we're addressing the third. So, Allison McCune Davis, welcome.
So good to be back.
Well, it's wonderful to have you. And I want you to just kind of recap what the whole picture is all about. And then we're going to concentrate on that third part. Okay, Allison?
Okay, cool. So this comes from the book, 60 is a Good Start, which I always like to say is kind of targeted to women, maybe 50 to whatever age. But that second part of life. And so the framework of the book is called the self-perpetuating circle of purpose. And it has 3 pillars. And these 3 pillars are based on the longevity studies that have happened out there from Harvard, from the Blue Zones, there's multiple studies of longevity and what do the people have in common that live these long, healthy lives. And so looking at a lot of that stuff, even in situations with disease like cancer and unexpected good outcomes because of putting some of these things in place. So the 3 pillars I call bodywork, brainwork, and worldwork. And the commonalities that all these people had fit into each of those pillars. And so under each of those pillars, I have what I call the big 5. So they're like the 5 foundational activities we should all be doing in body work. That's the physical. In brain work, that's the mental, emotional, spiritual. And in world work, that's our outer world, meaning our relationships and our purpose. And so the idea is that we're going to choose a few of these, not too many, to do every day for a 60-day period of time. The book 60 is a Good Start leads to the 60-day dare. And the purpose of that is to establish these new long-term habits that we want because our future is hidden in our daily routine. I love to say that. So what are the daily habits we have? Because that is the future that we're creating, right? So who do we want to be a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? What are we doing each day to get us to that point? And so we're creating these habits, which are actually really long-term memory, because according to Dr. Caroline Leaf, the wonderful neuroscientist that I love, and she's real popular, written tons of books, but you can see that formation in the brain, in the nerve cells in the brain, on the dendritic spines. The little umbrellas start to create, and that is long-term memory, and that is habit. Like, you go brush your teeth every morning, that you don't even think about it. That's just your habit. You just do it. Well, wouldn't it be great if we were also just exercising 60 minutes every day? We didn't think about it, we just did it. So,
And when you think about that, brushing the teeth, any of us who are parents know how long it took for that to become a habit.
Didn't it?
Years of did you brush your teeth? Brush your teeth, brush your teeth. So we can't expect these things to just catch overnight. We have to be willing to work at establishing this different way of thinking and behaving, right?
Yes. And as Dr. Leaf says, it's really 60 days is the minimum that it takes to create a new habit. It could be up to 8 months. Okay, so that's why 60 is a good start. It's not just age, it's how long does it take us to create a good habit? So, it could be a physical habit that you're physically doing every day. It could be a mental thought habit that you're trying to change, in your mind. Um, so, so yeah, 60 days is, the minimum. But really magical things start happening when you do that something for 60 days and all of a sudden you're getting to day 45 and you're like, wow, this is getting easier. This is becoming who I am. But you don't stop there. You got to keep going. But it's real interesting. We've done a number of 60-day dares up to this point, to see what do you do after those 60 days. Are you gonna keep going with that habit that you're working to create, or is it, falling through the cracks? And if it is, of course, you needed more time and you just keep going. So,
And you offer a lot of support to people
yes.
who are attempting this
Hmm.
change in their life, because any kind of change at any point is a challenge. And as we get older, we are more resistant to change. We kind of
Yes.
get
We're more
stuck.
hardened into our habits. Yes. And it takes accountability, it takes support, regular support, a group of people, women doing the same thing, together. So yes, we do
Do you
programs.
want to talk about that a little bit, about the kind of support that you've created for people who are attempting this life change?
We just finished a 60-day dare. And so, depending on what you want, there's kind of a couple of options, but basically we're doing a Zoom call every week. So that's like 9 Zoom calls over the course of the uh, 60 days. And, there's a planner that goes with the book that, you can use that as your planner for the 60 days. So you're checking things off. You're really, it takes a lot of, um, diligence and attention to what are these, say, I like to say 3 things I am going to do every day for 60 days. And might take 5 minutes to do that thing, but sometimes those things, it only took 5 minutes, so they fall through the cracks, right? But right, we're trying to develop those habits. So they get an email every day. There's a Facebook group. People are talking back and forth. So it's daily support and then the weekly Zoom calls, and you can get individual one-on-one calls if you want to add that to it. But yeah.
Yes, I was going to say, how important do you think that support is for people to stick with it, stay there long enough so that that does become a habit and it simply becomes part of a life then?
Mm-hmm. I think it's huge. I mean, there are the small percentage of people that can do something like this on their own. They just have some kind of crazy good willpower and all of that, discipline and everything. I mean, there are those people, there's no doubt about it. But I think for the most part, we need encouragement. We need someone rooting for us, saying, you can do this, you can do this. And then hearing each other's stories and what was hard for me and what was easier for you if you did it this way, and just that real support. I think it's really vital if you really want to make changes.
And I guess the success stories are pretty reinforcing. If someone's saying, I did this and now this is happening
Oh
and it's
yeah.
wonderful.
Oh yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, yes, I love that part. That's the best.
So today we're talking about this third part of this system, and it's world work. And I love that concept, world work, especially because as we get older, we often have much more time available to doing things that are important in the world. It's part of
Yes.
our legacy. So let's hear about it, Allison.
Well,
Let's
I think so. I think the majority of us had kids, and so we raised them. I forget what the percentage is. It's in the 80s of women that have children. And so a lot of us, were spending those decades raising kids and putting, just all that effort into giving, giving, giving. We might have had a career. We might have been working at the same time. Maybe we just had the career and we were putting all of that, ourselves into that kind of giving. Whatever we were doing in those prime, 20 to ages 20s to 50s, 60s, that prime part of our life, we were, just giving so much. And then now the kids are raised or almost raised, they're independent, even if maybe they still live at home a little bit or whatever. And all of a sudden it's like, what am I doing? Or if it is the career, I mean, that changes. I was raising five kids and I had a little side thing with natural health, teaching women about natural health, just online or in person. But it was definitely a side thing. But it was my opportunity to get out and, do something with adults. And, but that, I did that for like, well, 10 years probably. And then I just started, it's my favorite thing to talk about still, but it wasn't giving me that excitement when I woke up every morning, that I really wanted to sink my teeth into this thing, and so all of a sudden I started wondering, what am I doing now? What is that? I want to wake up and have that excitement about my day and what I'm going to sink my teeth into, for my life. I mean, we are more than just raising kids. I think my family is the most important thing in my life, of course. And I can do other things out in the world. And I think, we all have a purpose and it changes over time. It changes. And I think we didn't realize that. I didn't realize that. So I'm hitting 60 and I'm 65 now. But when I hit 60, I was just like that birthday, it was just, wow, that was big. And oh my gosh, what am I doing with my life? Those questions just started popping up. And I really felt like a shift was in the offing. And I thought, I think I'm going to have to say yes to some things that pop up that may not be the thing I'm looking for. I didn't know what the thing was, but I needed something. And that will lead me to the thing, hopefully. So it was about a little 7-month journey of, I did a women's mastermind where it was all ages. And we were just kind of asking those big questions and, doing a few exercises and things. I also came across that Jesse Itzler calendar. It was all about planning, and his whole thing was he wanted you to create the misogi, right? The big thing that's a Japanese word for life-changing event. So the life-changing event each year, he wanted you to have something that was going to be memorable, that was going to be, so that's the year that I decided to do 75 hard. That popped up. We talked about this, I know already, but that was a 75-day challenge that was really hard. I mean, physically it was, and just mentally, and the whole thing was about mental toughness. And so, I did that, and all these things were over the course of about 7 months. And so one day then I was doing a little breathing meditation that I like to do, and it just hit me. I was just like, oh my gosh, I think I'm going to write a book. And then of course, my brain was like, no, what are you thinking? You're not that great a writer. It's all been said before, which is what our brain does. It likes to get in there and have all the doubts and stuff. And so, but I pushed through that, did some online writers conferences and started to write a book. And that was the thing. That was that I was excited every morning. I dedicated, like a 2-hour block of time every day to sit down and write. And so, we all have that. We all have, I absolutely believe, God put in us the desires of our heart, first of all, for us to pursue. And those desires can change over time. That purpose can change over time. But, it's finding it. That is a process. And in my book, in the work section, if the person who's engaging in this is like where I was, my life's changed, my kids are grown, what am I doing with my life? I have no idea. Well, there are 60 dream questions. So you would, and we just had one lady do this in our most recent one. It was so great to watch her evolution. But You answer one question a day. You're going to journal. So, and it might take you 5 minutes, or you might spend, 10 or 15 minutes on it, but you're going to answer one question of those 60 questions that I think are really going to lead you to what could your purpose be for the next year, 5 years, 10 years.
Give us an example, Allison, of one of those wonderful dream questions that
Yes, I'm going to give you three
Okay.
briefly. One, and it may be written a couple of different ways, but it's really, go back to when you were maybe in your teens, maybe earlier, maybe in your early 20s. What were your dreams back then? you know, really try to put yourself back in that time period of your life and remember and recall. I'm not saying those need to be your dreams now. Oh, these were my dreams and I never did them or whatever. Just what were they? Because some element of that could be, a thread to getting you to where, you're going to go for the next decade. So that's one to really think about and just journal about. Another one is the core value exercise. So you've seen, a list of 200 words, core value words. Businesses do this all the time. But people don't, just individuals don't. And I think they should. What are your core values? Not what they should be, not what society says they should be. What are they in your heart? What are they? So there's like 200 or 300 core value words. The first, you'll go through it 3 times. You'll just check mark, which of these resonates for me? Which of these words, go through it. Then narrow those down to the top 10 and then narrow those down to the top 5. And those are your 5 core value words. So really, when you get to this point in life, I mean, we need to be very intentional about where we're spending our time because time is short. Do we want to be doing something we really shouldn't be doing? So then you can look at what am I doing in my life and do the activities, right? What am I spending each day doing? What am I spending each year? Like what things are happening during the year? Do they fit into those core values or are they like off? And maybe that's something that, you just don't want to be doing anymore so that you have time and margin to do the things you're meant to be doing, the reason you came, the reason you're born, And then the third one is the alignment exercise. And it's just listing like maybe it's the top 10, 15 things that you do in your life. Well, every other day I go to the gym and exercise. I have every month I have this group that I meet with. Every day I do this, that, and the other. Just what are the things you do in your life? And then go through each one and give it, is it fully aligned? Mark it with an F. And that means when you think about that thing, physically, how do you feel? Do you feel expansive and, oh, I love that. It's my favorite thing. I look forward to doing it. It's so much fun. Is it that? Great. Is it semi-aligned? Is it, you're not sure? Some days I like it, some days I don't. And then, or is it misaligned? And how does your body feel? Does it contract? Does it tense up a little bit? I wish I wasn't doing that thing, but I have to, or I've committed to it, or whatever the case may be. And really assess and again, this goes to the time that you have in your day, in your week. And are you spending it on something that maybe you shouldn't be spending it on? So it's really assessing those things. So I think those are 3 really good. There's a lot of other stuff too, but that's helpful in getting a person to that place.
So what I'm hearing is that we need to pay attention to our life, maybe like we never have before.
Yes.
We've been caught up in the beginning, perhaps getting the education we needed to do whatever we thought we were going to do or wanted to do. Now we've gotten a lot of habits over all those decades. Take them out, take a look at them, see how we're spending our time. How rewarding is it? How fulfilling is it?
Yeah.
because this is our chance
Yeah.
to change that. And from everything you're saying, it's both a challenge and a tremendous opportunity to get, these are my words. You can decide whether you agree, get a new lease on life. Just open the
Absolutely.
whole picture up.
Absolutely. And what an incredible time to do it with. Now we do, like you said early on, have more time in our day. I mean, I have a lot more time in my day than I did when I had 5 kids running around here. And in my brain, I have more like white space in there to think. And we have all these years of experience and wisdom. I mean, we do. And so it's like the perfect time in my mind.
So, Allison, it occurs to me that you and I both are examples of what you're talking about today,
Mhm.
because you've taken this concentrated focus on your life at a given time, and it's expanded into these books and this whole direction that obviously you're very excited about. I mean, when you talk about the women who are doing this thing and how exciting their path is
Mhm.
as it opens up, hearing that, watching it, encouraging it, that's like dessert. That's
Yeah,
wonderful.
it's dessert.
Yeah. And that's true of me too. This podcast is a
Yes.
perfect example. I created this shampoo line because I wanted a way to talk about getting older that was
Yes.
so positive and so encouraging rather than, oh, we're
I
getting
know.
old and we have gray hair. No, this is
Yeah.
something that's beautiful and we get to celebrate it and make the most of it and make the
Hmm.
most of ourselves. And I love doing this. I
Hmm.
love being present for persons of age like me,
Yes.
because we're kind of ignored in the world. We're not
Yes, it's true.
taken.
And I use you as an example. I had to do a PowerPoint thing a few months ago about, this program, and you were one of my examples. There's a little photograph of you doing exactly that, being the age that you are and doing this podcast and encouraging women, and it's just a beautiful thing.
Well, I hope I'm encouraging men too, because it isn't just for
Yes.
women, but
Yes.
whatever, it's for those of us who are this in this part of life and maybe are feeling a little less than totally fulfilled.
Hmm.
You're saying, hey, don't stop now. This is
Yeah.
the time to open the doors,
Yes.
take the risks, look at all these options that are dreams that maybe haven't been fulfilled or new
Right.
dreams,
Right.
because we're not just the sum of our history.
Hmm.
We can go in a whole new direction.
Hmm. Hmm. Totally. Totally. I mean, it's like what little ideas are bubbling up, and so many times I think people, would just squash them down and, oh, I can't do that, it's just not going to happen. But I really think you have to take those little ideas that are bubbling up and I was just doing that recently. I just found a great podcast that's got about 200 episodes about the thing I'm wanting to learn about right now. And so I'm just binge listening to these. You start doing that research. Just start researching that thing. And one thing
Yes,
leads to
so
another.
much is available, so much
Hmm.
information,
Hmm.
so many ideas. I'm just thinking about, there's a place in Ojai here in California that's called Meditation Mount, and it was put together by a woman when she was 80.
Oh, wow.
And I'm sure people said, what are you doing? I mean, you're 80, but she didn't care. And she's long gone, but that beautiful thing that she created, there it is.
Still
There
there.
it is.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So it's never too late.
Hmm.
And what you're saying about the experience, we do. We have a richness, a wealth of experience that nobody who's young has. They
Hmm.
can't. It
No, they
only
can't.
comes from living.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's and we know in other cultures, like some random place in the Amazon or Africa or wherever, that they revere their oldest members of the tribe. Right? They are just, looked upon for their wisdom. But it's not been the case in, our modern world, America, as it is in those cultures that, we read about or see documentaries about or whatever. And, hopefully you and I and others are trying to make a dent in a change in that area.
And
Because again, it is just, I mean, the wisdom that can be provided. And I'll also say, you know, because we live in this modern world, I mean, oh, I can just ask Chat GPT or I can just Google it. So, there's that with people maybe preferring to do that than talking to their wise 80-year-old neighbor.
oh, which is a little flat when you think about the
Yeah.
difference in depth
Yes.
and the stories. I mean,
Yeah.
we have stories by this time. We have lots and lots of stories.
Yes.
And I guess it's important to realize that not everyone is going to want to hear those stories. Sometimes the ones we want to tell aren't going to listen,
Mm-hmm.
but we can listen to each other and we can find our audience.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
there. It is there.
Yep. I
So
agree.
tell us a story about somebody who's kind of a great example, followed what you've given as this map for just widening and deepening your life and where they've gone with it,
Well,
Allison.
I mean, the one that just comes to mind is the most recent one. So she's just on the precipice of getting started with it, but she's a veterinarian, and I guess she was 60, and she was really looking for that next thing. And she's going to write a book. I mean, it's the same thing I was doing, but I didn't influence her, I don't think. It was just as she was answering those questions, and we were meeting every week in our group. Little by little, that started. It was about midway through that idea started to just pop up, and then the more we went on, the more it was solidifying that that's what she's planning to do. So from this really cool kind of veterinarian perspective, sort of slash memoir slash animal stuff. So it sounded really cool. And then there was another woman in the group that her transformation was really in the physical area. She has a full-time job. She's probably 55, I'd say. And she's an entrepreneur. So she works full-time. So she is sitting at her desk a lot. And just the physical, she just wanted to be physically moving more. And it was hard for her to get more than 2,000 steps a day in. And by the end, she was at 6,000 and felt regular and felt like it was doable. She was committing to 4,000 every day, from the two that was her normal. But by the end, she was, she'd go more. So she was really doing well at 6,000, just finding little ways to make that happen, even within her office, in addition to maybe going outside for a walk too. But so that was huge for her, and she was very excited by the end of the 60 days that she had figured out how to be. There's that phrase, environment triggers behavior. So a big part of all of this is, depending on what that thing is that you're trying to change. The veterinarian lady was also trying to drink more water. So we, talked a lot about how, you have to have that water with you all the time, wherever you are, in the car and by your bedside at your desk, to constantly be triggering, oh, there's my water bottle. I think something like we have 11,000 or 11 million receptors in our bodies, and 10 million of them are for sight sense receptors. And so, the environment being set up to trigger the behavior we want is huge as you are going about figuring out what habits you want to improve or change. So those were more in the physical category, but that was her change.
I want to hear if you have a story about someone who's moved into some kind of service or offering to the world through following your guidance.
And this one, yes, this one lady, she is probably late 50s. She may be 60. She went through, and what she's ultimately doing is giving people, it's called a raindrop. Have you ever heard of a raindrop? It's a massage type technique. It's like an hour. You go to her house, and you're on a massage table, and it's using essential oils, first on the bottom of your feet with reflexology. It's like 8 specific oils that are really good for immune boosting. And then you turn over on your stomach, and then the whole thing is on your spine, which that's where like viruses will hide. And it's just I get one monthly, and it's just a great thing to do for your immune system, keeping you well and all that stuff. Also incredibly relaxing. But it's all these techniques along your back, your spine. So it's focused on that. And the part that's focused on your feet are the spinal points. So that's, you have on a foot, your spinal points are your big toe and then down to the base. So this would be like your head, and down here would be like your sacrum. So if you know anything about reflexology, but so that's, she's an example of that. She was a stay-at-home mom raising her kids, and now she loves doing this. She incorporates prayer, does a prayer for the person at the beginning, and then it's just this beautiful, experience. And she loves to do it, and she loves learning about it, learning more and more about herbs and plants and how they affect the body. And so that's her thing.
And often I think if we have some kind of problem, whether it's a physical problem or whatever, that can end up being a pathway into service.
Absolutely. There's so many things that can be that path into what we should be doing. It could be something like a sickness or an illness or something we went through, or just a trauma that we went through. So some more questions in those 60 dream questions, are things like, what upsets you in the world? Like what is something that just like you see it, maybe you see it in the news, maybe you see it in just the world somewhere, and it just really makes you upset. Like something out of that could be what your purpose is right now. Because when we say purpose, what we're saying is, how are you helping others in the world? Because that is our ultimate, satisfaction is, how am I making a difference to other people in the world? How am I helping them? How am I serving them? How am I solving a problem for them? How am I fixing this thing? That is where our ultimate satisfaction and happiness really comes from.
And one of the things about getting older is that I think we're aware that we're not going to be here forever.
Right.
So we're a little more likely to be willing to risk some people not liking us or not agreeing
Yes.
with us. We're not so tender when it comes to what do
Yeah.
they think about me?
Right.
How am I coming
Completely.
across? We get a
Yeah.
little
Isn't
freedom.
that wonderful?
Yeah, who
It's,
cares?
it's so freeing. Yeah. Yeah. Who
Yeah.
cares?
So we
Like,
can
if
take
I'm
some.
not meant to do this thing, I'm not meant to do this thing. I feel like sometimes a big thing I'm trying to teach women is to say no to certain things. And because so many kind of, they'll get involved in something. A lot of it happens at church sometimes, but it's other instances too. Maybe you're volunteering with a nonprofit organization or whatever. Just you're doing something, and you're just all of a sudden realizing, this is not for me. This is, if you let that go on, resentment starts to come, and oh, that's such an awful feeling. And so, you know, when you see those signs, that's a no. That's a this, for what some reason this is not working for me. And I promise someone else who it will work for is going to pop right up. But you're kind of in the way, and they can't pop up yet. So we need to get you doing what you should be doing, what you love to do, what you want to do, and then that other person can fill in that gap over there.
Yeah, and it's not that um, we've become too lazy or too self-obsessed to do it. We've outgrown it.
Yes.
It's served its purpose in our life.
Yes.
And just as you're saying, now it's time to pass it on to
Yeah.
someone
And
else.
that's okay. That's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people also find their purpose through volunteering. So that's one of the 5 parts of world work. So the dream questions, so if you were the person that's trying to figure out what you're going to do, I would say you do the dream questions in world work, answering the question every day. But there are four more areas. One is, well, I'll just go on to the one I was about to say, is called help, and that's just volunteering. I mean, a lot of people, if you're just sort of like, I don't know what I want to do, but I have no idea, where to even start, I would look up, just Google, all the different areas of volunteering. There's so many, and so many people find their purpose that route. So, but it's got to be something you're totally into, that looks like so much fun and you could really do something in that area. And there, so that's one area. Another piece of world work is engage. So that just means that's relationships. That's engaging in relationships. And, there's a big loneliness problem when people get older. Maybe they have lost a spouse, maybe they're divorced or widow, or your kids are all grown. They're alone. Maybe on top of that, they're an introvert, so they're kind of happy being alone, which I can kind of relate to. But I say I'm an outgoing introvert. I definitely need that time alone, right, to refuel. But that engaging, so if someone is in that space, that really, if you're lonely and just not engaging with other people, that definitely is not good for longevity. I mean, which is kind of interesting, I think. And in fact, they say that might be the most important piece, is having those relationships that you regularly engage in, friendships, family, whatever they are. So you might be the person that needs to, make a date for coffee once a week. You just have to really take that step in reaching out to somebody. Hey, do you want to go to coffee on Tuesday? With a girlfriend or something, or if it's, your brother that lives across the country that you haven't talked to in a long time, making an appointment to do a Zoom or a FaceTime or something with that person, but really just staying engaged with the key relationships in your life or making new ones.
Or making new ones.
Yeah.
Opening new doors.
Yes.
Allison, we're out of time.
Okay.
But I am so grateful for all the sparks, ideas that you've offered. And I know your books help guide people, and what you offer online and so on. You give lots of support for people who are open to changing and growing at this point in life.
Yes.
So truly vital and important. So thank you so much for being
Thank you for
my
having
guest
me.
again. And thank you to all of you for being part of Sensationally Silver. We'll see you next time. Great news, everybody. Our premier hair care product line, Sensationally Silver, is now available on Amazon. You can order it so easily, you can get it so quickly, and you can be so sensationally silver.
Sensationally silver.